Okay, so welcome to another Mr. Davis vlog. Today I wanted to chat about fake news. So I actually do have some links here on my teacher webpage. So if you go to teacher-mr-davis.yolasite.com, you will find some links. If you click on grade 9 English, so English 9, you'll find some news there under Unit 7 research paper, fake news. So this is very interesting. This is from Megan Gilmore, and it's called Fake News, Distinguishing Fact from Fiction. People often want to avoid the news because sometimes reality hurts. Recently, some want to tune out for other reasons. They doubt the headlines are about real events or that actual people wrote the stories. Fake news is real. It's tricky to define, but it's crucial for teachers to understand. Students often look to teachers for information about how the internet works. If they don't get it from teachers, they're not going to get it anywhere else, said Matthew Johnson, Director of Education at Media Smarts, an Ottawa-based organization that provides media literacy resources. Help is coming from teachers. Education programs are offering sessions on the topic. In Ontario, the Association for Media Literacy recently published new tools listing questions people should ask about fake news. Originally, fake news meant stories published to drive traffic to websites so the owners could make money. The information was false. The writers knew this. Their only goal was financial. The term gained popularity during the 2016 U.S. presidential campaign and is often used to describe hyper-political sites. Because the beat evolved so quickly, the term fake news specifically has sort of devalued, said Jane Levinenko, a reporter with BuzzFeed Canada who has been writing about fake news since November 2016. BuzzFeed avoids the term unless referring to material that fits the original definition, Levinenko told Teach. This article uses it throughout to avoid confusion. I want to also add that I've read some British educational journals, and they also don't like the term fake news. They say please use the term propaganda, misinformation. They prefer that. The term may be devalued, but the trend matters. It's an ethical problem, said Johnson. These stories wouldn't spread if people didn't spread them. They spread on social media, where users are broadcasters as well as consumers of news, said Johnson. We have an ethical responsibility to make sure that a story is legitimate before spreading it to our peers. Digital technology, including social media, has a click-and-leave economy, said John McNabb, a high school math teacher in Edmonton. It encourages students to respond quickly to endless information, but no expert helps them determine what is trustworthy. They're incredibly vulnerable, he said. Research agrees. In November 2016, Stanford University's History Education Group released Evaluating Information, the cornerstone in civic online reasoning. The study evaluated middle school, high school, and undergraduate students' ability to interpret information online. For example, students were asked to decipher between traditional advertisements, native advertisements, that's articles that companies pay for, often called sponsor content or advertorials, and news articles, or discuss if tweets were reliable sources of information on controversial subjects. Their assessment? Pretty bleak. We were taken aback by the students' lack of preparation, the authors wrote, noting that they often change tasks during the development phase to make them easier for students. Fake news is more than stories. The term is a rhetorical device or code, said Tammy Oliphant, who teaches library studies at the University of Alberta. People from all backgrounds use it to describe stories they disagree with or don't like, even if the information's true, reported by established and reputable news organizations. The term creates distrust. People hear something as fake news and may assume it's incorrect, even without hearing the news itself. So, it's part of a larger trend. Oxford Dictionary has declared post-truth 2016's word of the year. The adjective describes circumstances in which objective facts are less influential in shaping public opinion than appeals to emotion and personal belief. In other words, people use emotions, not facts, to determine truth. Which means to teach about fake news, teachers need to start with facts. facts. This begins by helping students understand real news. Students often repeat headlines on what they've heard on the radio or television. Their knowledge of a situation is likely not deep, said Johnson Tilley, a grade 5-6 teacher at Toronto's Hillcrest Community School, who regularly discusses the news with his students. Teachers can't simply encourage students to read past headlines, he said. Articles aren't written for children to understand. If students don't know the context, reading the full piece may not be helpful, he said. Understanding the news is like any skill or any art where you have to learn it and then you have to play with it, said Tilley. He contributes to www.teachingkidsnews.com, the site developed by Joyce Grant, a Toronto-based freelance journalist, publishes articles about news events written in kid-friendly language. Articles come with questions, often written by Tilley, that teachers can use to start conversations with students. These conversations need to include explaining the spectrum of news, said Joyce Grant. The spectrum begins with legitimate news articles and opinion pieces backed with facts. Inaccurate news is next. News organizations make mistakes, but they correct them and publish corrections. Biased news and satire follow. At the bottom, after clickbait, advertisements and advertorials are propaganda and deliberate hoaxes or scams. Fake news belongs here, said Grant. Detecting fake news can be difficult, especially when legitimate news organizations produce satirical programs easily mistaken for news reports. However, there are some key signs the story is fake. Fake news articles often lack sources. People aren't directly quoted. Source material for statistics may not be provided. Often, legitimate organizations provide links to source information. Fake news doesn't. Web addresses of fake news stories can provide clues. Grant encourages teachers to look out for sites with .ru or .co in the address. These stand for Russian and Columbia, respectively. Some addresses deceptively resemble legitimate news organizations, but have an extra .co after the .com. Type suspicious URLs into a search engine. Look for an About Us page on these sites. Search suspicious headlines. If something is true and noteworthy, multiple respected news organizations will report it. Search images too. Teachers, like anyone, should turn to various reliable sources for news. This can provide more information about a story and determine what perspectives are missing. Teachers should consider some non-traditional sources. Grant consulted with professional journalists when assembling recommendations of trustworthy organizations. Industry titans like the New York Times, the Guardian, the BBC, the CBC made the cut, along with even Teen Vogue. Grant included the latter because of its recent coverage of racism and immigration, she said. One organization leading the way is exposing fake news, is one often criticized for contributing to the internet culture that's helped fake news rise: BuzzFeed. BuzzFeed gained popularity through listicles and quizzes, but now has an extensive news division. Yes, we serve the dessert with our quizzes and our cat posts, said BuzzFeed reporter Jane Litvinenko, but we also serve the nutrients or the dinner with our news. It's similar to traditional media publishing horoscopes or travel stories, she said. Her job, like journalist jobs anywhere, is actually boring. It involves many spreadsheets, she said, but no conspiracy theories. If there's a journalism group chat somewhere out there comparing against something for something, I definitely wasn't invited. These seemingly uninteresting research methods, varying sources, and reading documents carefully can disrupt what makes fake news powerful. Their reliance on instant emotional responses like fear, outrage, or smugness. These responses are red flags, said Grant. Fake news needs these reactions to survive. It circulates mainly on social media, a platform where emotional voices gain popularity. Before you react to it, get into the habit of asking yourself a question, said Jason Hurley, who teaches education psychology at the University of Alberta. This can help separate facts from opinion. It also gives people a chance to pause before sharing something. Teachers should challenge students to consider why they agree or disagree with information, fake news or otherwise. People are naturally drawn to information that agrees with their beliefs. It's not necessarily bad, said Tammy Oliphant. People can't digest all available information. They need filters. becomes dangerous, though, when people never challenge their assumptions or think critically about what they're consuming. When teachers ask students why they believe certain things, it encourages them to be more reflective, said Oliphant. Discussing fake news can help students become critical or skeptical consumers of news. This means asking good questions and not letting media wash over them, said Grant. However, when tragedies dominate the news, even legitimate news, tuning everything out becomes tempting. This can lead to cynicism, disregarding everything, and believing nothing is true, said Harley. Teachers need to consider students' emotions. That's why many advise against describing fake news as lies. The stories are lies by definition, but calling them that can stir up more negativity. Teachers need to use this awareness when discussing any tragedy. So as a rule, Teaching Kids News does not publish articles about violent events. Parents should discuss these events with children, and there's no guarantee a parent will be present when a student is on the site, said Tilley. These topics can't be completely avoided in the classroom either, whether it's talking about history or current events. Tilley tries to be as honest as possible with his students. He tells them he doesn't always understand why certain things happen, that living in a violent world hurts, but he doesn't want to leave them hopeless and overwhelmed. I try to encourage in everything that they do, whether it's big or small, that they have to try to find compassion and kindness, he said, because that's what we deserve as individuals, and that's what our world requires. That's especially true in a world of fake news. Anyway, Megan Gilmore is a freelance writer on Toronto. This is from the March-April 2017 Teach, page 9. Page 9. I did a similar activity. I put up a meme. It's a fairly popular meme of what looks like Justin Trudeau, our Prime Minister, giving a bag of cash to Omar Khadr. And behind that is what looks like a homeless veteran. And I just asked my students, I tried not to comment. In fact, I didn't comment, other than to say that the character was Omar Khadr, and let them go, give them a Chromebook. Can they find the truth or the lies in that meme? So that was an activity. I was surprised at how well our grade 9s this year did. So we did that in October of 2019. The kids here at Xavier Junior High in Deer Lake, Newfoundland did a fantastic job. Only one student seemed to get tired and get lost. I have a class of about 23. Everyone else seemed to find the truth and did a fantastic job. So it's something we need to teach in public education, and it's something we can fight against, and we have to, as educators, fight against fake news. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. This has been Mr. Davis Vlog.